Birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 16. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. You know, the third Saturday of every month is one of my favorite days of the month because that's when we have our NAVDA training day. Yesterday, Skeet was working on duck search. You know, she's doing pretty well. On the first cast, she's generally searching across 2 of the 3 islands on our duck search pond. I'm not really sending her to the third one yet. But when she finds a duck and, you know, she retrieves it to hand, when I go to resend her on her second cast, she's generally swimming out about 20 yards and then returning. And we're continuing this 4, 5, 6, 7 times until she'll finally, I think, realize that she's supposed to go back out and search some more. And eventually she gets back out there and she searches and she finds another duck and she retrieves it. We're going to keep working on this. I'm going to keep working on building her confidence and getting her to understand that when I send her out to search that, you know, there's another duck there for her to find. I'd like to thank my patrons and get ready because when my new puppy comes, there's going to be weekly exclusive content on my Patreon page. If you'd like access to that content or you just want to support the Woe Post, go to patreon.com/thewoepost and become a patron. As always, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at The Woe Post, on my website, www.thewoepost.com, or by email, bill@thewoepost.com. Please share the podcast with all your friends, whether they're bird dog folks or not. We welcome all listeners into this community. Today, we're continuing our journey through France and discussing the Braque d'Auvergne. The Braque d'Auvergne is a pointing mountain dog from the Auvergne province, with records dating as far back as 1800. It's known to be affectionate, obedient, intelligent, and gentle. Males and females are generally 50 to 60 pounds, with females standing 20 to 24 inches and males slightly taller at 22 to 26 inches. Their coat is short and glossy white with a mottling of black, which can appear blue, and larger black spots. The head and ears are always black. Today we're discussing the Braque d'Auvergne with Gene Maylock of Ironmaster Kennel. Gene, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to see you. You know, we had a great phone conversation yesterday or the day before, I think. And, you know, really enjoyed, you know, meeting you over the phone. Guys, get ready. Gene's got a lot to say. This is going to be really exciting. And even I know you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but Gene put some thought into setting up or getting ready for this Zoom meeting. He's positioned perfectly in, as I look at the screen, the right 30% of the frame. He's got over his right shoulder, the left side of the screen as I look at it, a perfectly framed Braque d'Auvergne with Ironmaster across the shoulder of the dog, which is the name of his kennel, and then a litany, or not a litany, that's not the right word, a plethora of awards around the Ironmaster frame with a woodcock mounted, a widgeon decoy, and is that a shed antler? I can't see what that is right there. Okay.
It's a shed.
But it looks great. So Gene's done a lot of preparation setting up for this, and he's got his hunting shirt on and he's ready to go. And I appreciate that. And a dog on the couch behind him. You can't ask for anything more.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And after talking with you, I just wanted to share my enthusiasm with you and all the guests that are coming onto this podcast.
So can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Gene Maylock. I'm kind of like a dog nut. I've loved dogs from childhood. I've had dogs my whole life, and then I started to breed dogs in my 20s. I was a Penn State student in the animal science project into my junior year. I thought I'd be a vet or a doctor, and instead of being a bio major, Penn State had animal science, which educated you more on animal nutrition, production, and in case you didn't go to an advanced school, you had a placement in the animal industry. So the problem was I was also a musician and I love photography. So at that time, my advisor was a dairy science guy, and he bought me an ice cream at the Penn State Creamery, and he took me to his office and had a little sit down. And I was a 4.0 student, and he said, with all things, this is what should be. But he said, I think you really like photography, and I think you should go talk with the art department. And he says, I don't want you to come back to me at 32 years old with one and a half kids and kind of broke because school costs so much. And he said, I wish I did something different with my life. So his name was Dr. Paul Schellenberger. I owe a lot to him. And so I went to the art department and got a art Bachelor of Fine Art. So I went from BS to Bachelor of Fine Art, but I took a business minor because I knew I was taking my life into my own hands to become a photographer.
Yeah.
So I had Rottweilers at that time, and previous to that, I was in a show called the Up with People show, and I was in Europe quite a bit, and I just fell in love with Rottweilers. And then as I got, look, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have podcasts, and your passion had to drive you to people who you admired. So the growth was very slow, and I had the Rottweilers, and I learned German methods. I had Schutzhund imported dogs, and then I had a Leonberger because I saw those in the Netherlands, and I said they were also a part of the original 7 Schutzhund breeds. And I said, they are cool and they're massive. And she became dysplastic, and that kind of put that on the back burner.
Mhm.
And I found German Shorthairs.
Well, when did you decide to get out of the shoots and breeds?
The Rottweilers were becoming a liability with the homeowners insurance and stuff like that, that there became aggressive dog laws somewhere in the 90s, I think it was 80s and 90s. So there was a time I had my last Rottweiler. She was 13, and then I got my first Munsterlander. And so the segue was the Leonberger, showing her in American rare breed shows on the bench. I found the breeds that were listed, and I couldn't believe how many rare breeds there were that people never even hear about. And one of them was large and small Munsterlanders. So I went to the test, not the test, the show secretary, and asked her, "Hey, what can you tell me about these Munsterlanders?" And she said, "Well, I can tell you that they're a very protected breed, and you won't ever find one of those at one of our shows. But here's the person to call if you want to find out more about those." And so she gave me Joseph Schmutz's name in Saskatchewan. And again, international phone calls weren't cheap, but I was interested. I had a deposit on a bench field titled Short Hair in Kansas. And again, these were the days you'd write a letter. You'd find their ad in the back of Gun Dog magazine or a sporting magazine, write or call the kennel, and they'd send you photos of the dogs, like 4x6 glossies, and you'd pick your puppy, kind of like that. So when I got involved with Joe, he referred me to some people in Minnesota and then another breeder in Colorado. And it was kind of like the chemistry of when you're like shopping or, inquiring about the dogs. There's definitely a chemistry. And that is one thing I'd like for everybody to know is find that chemistry with the person. And because it's not just a one-stop shopping, but when you're purchasing a dog, and then especially a rare breed, the support that has to come from that first contact, that you need to have confidence that this is going to be a long-term relationship with the person.
It almost doesn't even matter how much experience you have. That conversation with the breeder is always going to be beneficial. Even if you may have 30 years of experience with the same breed, there's always going to be something that maybe you haven't seen before and maybe somebody else has.
That's right. And the experience, we try to do the best we can, and great conversations can come around with the pairing of two dogs, but there's such variability in the breeding and then also the nature that the dog is put into. When I was in Pennsylvania, I had a kennel building and a larger operation than what I have here. I would keep two females every 2 years, and my goals at the time were the large Munsterlander was a slower maturing dog, and also definitely slower I call it the front end of the hunt with the pointing degree. And so I was looking for dogs that were faster maturing. When you'd raise two siblings in the same environment, it gave you really strong data as to why is this one just better? Just why is this dog finding birds? Why is this dog pointing better? And so then I would keep that female and then sell the other one as a started dog. A lot of people like that, that idea. And but people were very happy to get a Gene Maylock dog, an Ironmaster dog that was started because they knew that I was going to spend the time with it. When you have cooperative individuals in a breed, you can share information, and hopefully it's truthful information that I'm seeing this in my dogs. How about you? And you're hoping that you're getting data, that there's kind of an honest data to it. With the LMs, I have a lot, we're talking about Braque d'Auvergne, but I have a lot of history with the LMs, and especially in the foundation eras of that breed. It's always the question of, if the breed is so good, why aren't there more of them? And so I saw at the time the LMs, even in Germany, that the small Munsterlander outnumbered us 5-1 in popularity. And there are many reasons to that, but here I was with kind of a minority of minorities at this time. And then you come to North America, and where our hunting situations are different. What do we need to do with the breed to adapt it to the North American scene? And so this becomes big ethic questions, and it's happened with the previous generations of short hairs, pointers, Brittany's, and then even our field trials and test trials have changed what the breeds are. So I'm not criticizing, I don't mean to criticize it, but it's almost like the Labradors, that there's a lab for almost every function that man wants to have for labs. And it speaks, I guess, of the versatility of that genetic background of that animal. They're really incredible dogs. I didn't finish that part, but part of my background, everybody, is that I worked at hunt clubs, and I worked as a semi-pro trainer because I was a professional photographer. But I loved the dogs, and when you join the club, but I was trained how to work dogs, and then especially working dogs. And I was able to transfer those skills. Like a Schutzhund dog is obedience, protection, and tracking. Well, a versatile hunting dog is tracking, pointing, and water. So it was kind of like you had this triathlete thing going, and I really loved that about the dog world. And how the Europeans created those is, as the specialists were developed, I was more interested in the continental dogs because of that background that touched me personally. And so when I found that with the Munsterlanders, I appreciated I would say I'd put in, if this is an exaggeration, but hour in, the dogs gave me an hour out. If I'd spend 5 minutes with them, that 5 minutes retained in the dog and came back to me. Where when I was training at the kennel, I trained many, many different breeds of dogs. Some were just home companions, but they wanted to be a hunting dog. And I could see the difference of the breeds when I'd get a setter, how I had to approach just the breed, but also that individual. So to come up with these individual training programs that I had to adapt, that I had my own method, but then when you're handling different breeds, they all won't respond to you in the same time manner. That when you're force retrieving a certain dog, a certain breed, it's not by the book sometimes, and where you have to develop the patience to understand this animal, and it's not me, and it's got to be to that. Now, other trainers, they say, well, this is my method. If the dog can't do it, then I don't want the dog. And so, the lab field trialers can be like that because that's a part of that business, that I don't want to say game, but a part of it, where when you're at a small kennel, you're trying to make the best of every dog you're putting the hands on. And then you have to be honest with the owner and say, look, this is going to be good at this, but let me show you what happens when I do this to this animal. Say it's a Labrador. And then I bring another one right out, the kennel mate to it, and it's doing 500-yard blinds at the same time or something. And I'll say, this is the difference of these two animals. And no matter time and money, this dog is never going to be that dog. And so when you see that, and then you apply it to your own breeding program, where you'll get your test scores back, you're like, geez, I've been doing this a long time. I picked these two dogs thinking they're the best, but then somebody who's like new to it, they prize one or something, and you're like, good for you, good for you. So however that happened, it was good.
So all that experience, kind of starting with the shoots and dogs and then, working around short hairs and large Munsterlanders, what got you to the Braque d'Auvergne?
Unfortunately, I was divorcing at the time. I had 10 dogs. I also had Norwich Terriers, everyone, and that was a very unique breed. Yeah, we didn't talk about them, Bill,
No,
but
we didn't mention those.
I had Norwich Terriers, and I trained them as kind of just your farm dog, and I had three of them. One of our puppies went to Westminster, and he didn't win, but he went to Westminster, and that was a big accomplishment with those Norwich Terriers. And so when I divorced, I had 10 LMs, and I had to find homes. And I went a period of time without dogs, and all my dog friends were like, this is devastating. They knew how difficult this time in my life was. And so I moved to Pittsburgh, to a town that I knew no one from living in the country. I moved to an urban setting, and I thought I'm a nurse now in my second life. I thought I'd get a nurse practitioner. My daughter was at Pitt, and I thought I'd go to Pitt. They wanted my chemistry within 10 years. And I said, I got the wrong program, because my chemistry was when I was like 18 and 19, and I was 45 or something, or somewhere in that range. And I just said, I don't think this is the right program. I said, I'm just going to chill out here in Pittsburgh for a little while. But I was aching for a dog, a bird dog, another versatile dog. And I had Munsterlander people. I stayed in touch with several people and breeders. Gene, I'll give you one. I'll give you one. Just get back in the game. I didn't know what I was doing, and I love reading about dogs. And the Braque d'Auvergne came up, and at the time I was dating someone whose parents were down here in South Carolina, in Charleston, and as luck would have it, her jobs changed, and she asked me, should I look for something in Pennsylvania? And I said, why don't you go down by your parents? And so I need down to your parents. She was a missionary for 11 and 12 years in Romania and Turkey when she was young. My parents died when I was 30. So I'm missing them in my adult life. And I said, Sandy, this is a time for you and your parents to spend their last days with you. So let's look somewhere in the South. And so she found good matching position for her. I knew I needed a dog. And this is all happening at the same time, that if I get another dog, what would it be? The Braque d'Auvergne were supposedly good in the heat. And I knew that, and I did entertain a pointer, just because I think they're really good in the heat, but I still wanted to stay true to my versatile hunting dog thing that I believe in so much. So I started the pursuit of the Braque d'Auvergne, and for anyone who's in the pursuit of a rare breed, gear yourself for 1 to 2 years of waiting, and good things come to those who wait. Do the diligence, and just stay on it if that's what you really want. And so there were breedings that didn't happen. There were puppies that there weren't enough of. And so I just waited. I said, no, that's what I want. So I'll just wait. And so it was a misfortune of the breeder in Canada that her husband was having health issues. And she was even asking me if I was interested in her adult stock, the mature dogs. And I just said, Lori, I need a hunting dog. I need a companion and a hunting dog. And then I was at work and she texted me, she said, Gene, you're in luck. The pick of my litter was returned to the kennel and I'm offering her to you. And so I feel sometimes there's a destiny to all of this. We talked a little bit on the phone about the dogs that kind of changed your life. Those kind of I've had it a couple times in my life, but this dog Maya, who's on the couch behind me here, she's 9, but she was kind of that gift that I drove up there. It was in Quebec. I took 3 GPSs, Bill, to find the way. I had an Acura MDX and the car GPS. Then I had the Garmin, and then I had my phone, and it was so remote that at the end only one, and I can't remember which one. And then to come back, I had to put in like Bridge of the Thousand Islands because they were getting lost again to go to Pittsburgh. So, so I picked her up. She was just unbridled enthusiasm. Like I'm trying to think how old she was, maybe 12 weeks or 13. And I went down on my knees and she let her out in the living room and she just came to me and bowled me right over, jumped on my chest and knocked me over. And I said, wow, 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 what am I getting into here? And so we started the drive back and then I just started to uh, to do what I do with them and form the bond. And I had enough time when I was in Pittsburgh to find the training ground. So anyone who has to relocate and start from zero with training grounds, with birds, with everything, it's very challenging and takes a bit of time. And then to network with your people again, to find the people. My brother always jokes, "What do you mean your people, Gene? What, are you an Indian tribe?" I said, "No, there's a culture. You're looking for the like-minded people." And so that's just huge. And Bill, you're facilitating that with this podcast. You're this idea of connecting. My kennel is Ironmaster, everyone. And at the time I named it that, most of the places were named after a place like Sunny Nook or Breezy Point. And I was in an area of Pennsylvania that had iron furnaces. And so the owner of the furnace was known as the Iron Master. And so I knew that name, I toyed with the Game Master was the other one, but Joe, my buddy, said, Gene, Iron Master's a better name. I said, okay. And then it was really because the entrepreneurial spirit of the Iron Master, and then it's almost a community developer was the Iron Master. And so that's that I hope has been the reputation that I've created with the large Munsterlander Club in North America and with hopefully the Braque and Ironmaster owners of all our puppies, that I want to be that resource and I want to just pass on the torch to the next people of enthusiasts that there's history to these things. There's this modern time with what's happening and where are we going in the future with the I'm involved with rare breeds. So particularly where are we going with the rare breeds? And to communicate to people that in your breed clubs that they aren't your enemies. The people that have your small Munsterlanders, the large Munsterlander, the poodle pointers that unfortunately people's personalities take over and divides are created in breed clubs. And that is often the detriment to the breed itself. And it's trying as an organizer to how do we work together as a group? How do I respect your freedom as a breeder to you want a smaller dog, you want a bigger running dog? We need to respect that. It's trying to create this non-threatening environment within your breed, and that kind of just expands to all of the dog sport. That's because I know when in the old days when you'd come to a NAVDA test with the LM, there was prejudgment, and the typical response is, "Boy, that dog runs big for an LM," and as you don't know if it's a compliment or whatever.
The backhanded compliment, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, that's the word. So that's yes. If this podcast could touch anybody in your breed clubs, how do you work together, and um, again, what are we trying to do with the breed? Um, yeah, and how do we do it together? Because as a kennel, you move forward, and then you get a little bit stuck with your genetic pool. So, the choice is, where do I find a male typically? And do I go back to Europe? And I've done that, and I'll probably do that. Probably in 2 or 3 years, I'll probably import another male. And the internet and Facebook, all of it has made it better for these communications that I'm trying to encourage. But it also has created the sniping that can go on with breeds or people. And instead of just calling the person and saying, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" or this, or they just want to go into hand to hand on the internet or something like that.
Yeah, I think, you had a lot of really, really good points there. Anytime we introduce business competition between kennels, specifically, within the same breed, nobody benefits from that. The dogs don't benefit from that. Puppy buyers don't benefit from that. It's so important for breeders within a breed club, within a network, to be cooperative and to partner and to be supportive of one another. If you and I are breeders in the same breed and you have a phenomenal stud that is a good match to my phenomenal female, why wouldn't I want to work with you to produce a potentially phenomenal litter? But if we're competitive with each other, maybe you as the stud owner don't want me to produce great dogs, even though it's the best thing for our breed. We all see it. You mentioned it. It is a challenge. Unfortunately, it's just not the best thing for the dog. And we all say we're in it for the dogs. We're in it for the breed. Every breeder at face value wants to either improve the breed or maintain the standard within the breed. I think that we all have some areas that we want to improve. We all recognize that are areas that need to be maintained. And that really should be first and foremost in all of our motivation.
Yes, yes, that's it. That's it. So the breed clubs get into patrolling the breed, and then you run into those types of incidents like that. Exactly. Um, there were times, in the rare breed of when we have breed wardens involved, and hopefully somebody that's the person keeping an eye on what's happening to the breed in general. The days of the Labrador and the short hairs in their popularity, that there were many that are just backyard bred, that I have one, Bill, you have one, let's breed them, let's sell the puppies and keep one each, and we have our next hunting dogs. And sometimes I'd love to know the randomness of how has all this performance-based breeding versus like when you're producing maybe 20 puppies of a breed a year, okay, of a rare breed. And then you have a lab or a short hair that's thousands. And out of that pool, that's sometimes what I think is what skews a lot of data, that we have so many puppies of short hairs, backyard bred or not, and they turn out to be just pretty nice hunting dogs. And then we take these micro kind of breeds and put the scrutiny to them. And sometimes I say, what if we just bred them? Just bred them, produced 5,000 of them, and then said, let's now pick the best ones and move forward with that. And boy, does that ruffle feathers. When, it's kind of like you want to just open the spigot and get dogs out there and then start and say. But because of the world history with these rare breeds, with Europe being destroyed, and many like these Braque d'Auvergne went down to like 25 individuals after World War II. And so to start that all over again, and even the French, I do believe that if I read the rules right, if your dog has Braque type, it can, if you have a non-pedigreed dog and bring it to a show with their judges, they'll say that we can give you a pedigree because it exhibits the traits that we're looking for. So for people, think about that. How, I don't want to say it's desperate, but it's pretty darn inclusive, pretty nice if you want to do that.
Comes with a lot of responsibility as well, I think. And one of the things that, as a budding breeder, one of the things that I like about representing a small breed is the opportunity that comes with that. Because our breed is so small, we're a very healthy breed. Because our breed is so small, we have I would say, an above average hunting aptitude in the average small Munsterlander. We have opportunities to maintain that. You talked earlier about adapting the continental breeds temperament or aptitude, how they hunt, what we're looking for in them, to North American handlers. And that brings up I think a philosophical conversation of, we want to use the dog as a tool for our hobby, for hunting, but there's a part of me as well that says, why pick a breed to change it, to adapt it to a North American model? Why not look for a breed that already fits that model and keep that other breed for what it was intended to do? And then, there's another part of me that says that doesn't make any sense. Why am I going to try and turn this screw with a wrench?
Yes.
Right. So if there's a dog that we kind of like for whatever reason, and we want to use it for something else, and we know we can sort of fit that dog into, maybe after, generations later, we can get that dog to do that, then why not do that? I think it's a great conversation. I don't know where I fall into that. I think I tend to be on the maintenance side of it, where the dog was created for a purpose. Let's use that dog for that purpose and use a different dog for our North American model.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Maybe I could be persuaded
I
either way.
know, I know. And so if you take that and then go back to the 1800s, when many of these dogs were just being founded, that some particular man said, I need this dog to do this. Dobermans were created. I need this dog to do this. This was created. And this was lost. Stickelhaar was lost, or you know what I mean? So that's where that, especially when you're a president of a breed club, that there has to be freedom for the breeder to make these decisions, and then so it's a really philosophical question.
Sure.
I can go on both sides of the fence of both of it. When you get down to the versatile dogs, it's because we hunt the different types of game. Um, we love the idea of recovery. I mean, that's a big deal because we all walked alone without a dog, and trying to find something is just ridiculous. So the dog helps us with that. But then when we finally do find it and shoot it and hit it, and then we can't find it, but the dog can find it, 99% of the time. And that's the whole circle, of what we're doing here. I'm 60, everybody, and I was able to meet many of the early bird dog people and training people. And these weren't just through the phone calls. These were trying to meet them in person and see hands-on training with people. But Whaley was one of the guys who said, you get to an age and you just don't need to kill anything anymore. And it really does become about the find. And then the killing, just in the field trial world, you don't have to do the retrieve, but in our world, that just is completing the loop for the animal, for the dog. And so that's that's sometimes you get to this spot of I enjoy being out there. I oh, gosh, I got so much to talk about pigeon pens and quail recall pens. I guess some things have to be done to get your dog where it needs to be.
It's
So
all about preference, but I think there's a reason why we call it a finished dog, that provides you, the steadiness up through the flush, And then that retrieve to hand that's the ultimate accomplishment.
It
And
is.
it might not be important for everybody. Not everybody likes to drive a Corvette. I would like to. I don't have one, for just so everybody knows, but I think it'd be kind of cool. But I can have a dog retrieve to hand. I can do that a lot easier than buying a Corvette, to be honest with you.
One point I'd like to talk about is the breeding program. I use my brother as my demographic. That he's a corporate executive and he's raising children. Now they're one's in college and one is in high school still. But through the years, I've used him. He trains to what he needs in the dog. He he doesn't like NAVDA testing, but he does it begrudgingly because he respects the data that me or other people, if he's gotten my dogs or other people, but he runs the test. He does minimal preparation for it, but he's the average of many, many owners across North America that they're very busy people, and I need to create an animal that fits into that home and then can train and perform well for the amount of time put in with the time out. So that's something this breed, the Braque d'Auvergne, gives that. I haven't talked enough about this breed, this really wonderful breed of dog, but they they um, they are a little bit softer than the German dogs that just very soft spoken. I'm a soft spoken individual, so I can just talk to them. And we used to call it kitchen voices, just talking to this dog through training this breed. And then even if I just need a correction, it's just a slight raise of a voice, and they're like, "Oh my God, Dad, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." If they're in the wrong. Um, but they exhibit everything. They're a more front-loaded dog with a bigger search and and a wonderful point, just wonderful pointing. Backing is a training issue right now, and I don't have enough people to talk to say, what are you finding with backing in the dogs? Because with the Munsterlanders, I was selectively breeding that because you get into it. I'm into my F2, everybody, with the BAs. I have a litter on the ground right now, and I had three puppies. I'll probably do a repeat breeding this fall because I need to see those because that's my future is keeping one of these puppies and probably the next litter. Um, and I'm trying to just, you make this wish list. What can you improve on? And what I was the first BA prize one max score in the litter of this F2 with the dog. And then the male was 11 years old. And again, when you go to look for a rare breed companion, be prepared to drive and great expense. It took me 2 years to breed her. She went up there. I took her up. We were 3 weeks and couldn't get a tie in. And then I come home and well, I stopped at my sister's in Indiana, and she breeds Bernese Mountain Dogs, and one of her males jumps her that very day. And I just said, should I go back? And no pup, we didn't
Oh,
have a
okay.
tie, but it was just a matter of a day, the difference the day made for the cycle, but the frustration. And so I missed a whole year with the first litter. And then the next time I just was better prepared. I knew Upper Michigan better, and I found a vet and we did an AI just so I wouldn't miss it. And but there was my choices. And then my second litter I bred, I found a 13-year-old in New Jersey. So, so again, the challenge of the rare breed is sometimes you just have to start somewhere. And so the first one, I followed my model of performance-based breeding. And then the next, I had to go off of what her vet was telling me about the dog and what she told me about the dog. So so kind of at ground zero with the BA and trying to build some foundation. The breed has been here, I do believe, since the 70s, but the original group kind of just there was a couple that were keeping the records on the breed, and then they divorced, and nobody knows what happened. But with the NAVDA registry, that allows us to follow people and dogs through that. So I'm grateful for the registry. People have asked me would I like to start a Braque club, and after doing that the first time, I don't really have that interest, but I do have an interest in hosting what I call the Ironmaster Alliance, and that's like-minded people. I'm very selective with who is getting the puppies. I can tell in the first contact with if I want to work with this person, and a part of the idea is that if they want to breed, as some people want to restrict pedigrees, I'm trying to open that up to please don't spay or neuter until we see a mature animal in case I need it or somebody else in our Iron Master group needs that dog or an outcross. There's one or two other people breeding, and we need to have these available, even if they're not tested. We can do a hip X-ray, we can health screen them, but then we have to take a gamble on the hunting aspect and hoping that the generations of tested dogs come through to produce them. And so yeah, that's something, and a part of it, it's self-serving that I'm trying to sell these dogs to hunting people that like Bill, I'm definitely going to come up and meet you in Indy sometime and hopefully go hunting, even if we go up to the Dakotas. But it's really to foster like-minded people and then future hunting trips and memory making kind of stuff.
Don't threaten me with a good time. So
So
when you were looking at getting back into dogs, back into bird dogs after your break from the LMs, and you mentioned that you were looking at rare breeds, but what was it about the Braque d'Auvergne that said this is definitely the dog that I want?
yes, yes, and it can come down to just the paint job, the black and white. It's kind of poetic with being a photographer. I was a black and white news photographer, and now I work as a nurse. I'm a specialty. I'm a psychiatric nurse, and I used to do groups on the yin and yang symbol and the black and white. But I had to talk to people about that life is in the gray zones, and so for me, the BAs. I just found them beautiful, attractive. And then when they have a rare breed, you see pictures of them and then you see videos of them and you say, yes, that's a working dog. And, um, and then it was apartment living too. So I needed the off switch. And from what everybody talks about, that they have the off switch. And as you can see on the couch here, this is a prize one max score dog here on this couch behind me. And that was the resounding. And then when you're on Facebook with the people posting the same pictures of them on the couch or up on the bed, whatever. And the breeder told me, you have to provide a bed for this dog because they will choose the softest place in your house to sleep. And she tried to get up in the bed when she was that little puppy. Oh my God, she tried to. So I used to let dogs sleep in the bed, but now I have a dog bed for them by the bed or in the living room or multiple dog beds throughout the house.
That's something that I personally just can't do is have the dog in the bed with me because I know that dog's going to keep me up all night. I'm not a deep enough sleeper for that. And I personally know people that have all of their dogs in the bed with them, and sometimes 7 or 8 dogs in the bed with them, and God bless them that they could sleep like that. I couldn't do it.
I can't either. My sleep has become so limited. I can't do it anymore either. I had the Rottweilers in the bed and they would pin me in the bed and you couldn't even move. But you're young and you're full of it, and now it's just too precious. Sleep is too precious of a commodity.
Sure,
It's just,
that's way too much dog for one bed.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so what are you working on now this year with your kennel?
The goal of this year is to probably do a repeat breeding with our male that's from the Czech Republic and with our female that we bred here. It's to get more data. We have many buyers, Bill, that stayed with us over a year to have this. So I was a little disappointed for them that we didn't have puppies to give everyone and place the puppies. So this is, people think it's controversial also, but a back-to-back breeding is not unheard of, and the females are really prepared for this. And so I'm a little concerned about my hunting season. I usually go to Pennsylvania. This year I was trying to go to Maine and Pennsylvania. And I'm just not sure because the breeding is just, if hunters can believe it as a breeder, it becomes that kind of sacred moment that you're willing to give up your hunting because you need to get this breeding in. And so, um, that's what I'm looking forward to is a repeat breeding. And then if I keep one of those puppies or wherever it goes. One of my former puppies is up in Massachusetts, and he's interested in breeding. So that might happen this year also. And uh, I think that's the big plans. I don't have any test plans in this area. I'm having a lot of trouble finding duck water, and if I have to go to the low country of South Carolina, there are a lot of alligators
Yeah,
down there.
yeah.
And so to develop that, I have a pond behind my house that I can do basics with water. Um, that's that's a whole thing that they are versatile dogs, but for the new people who are listening, that that the breeders are trying to keep all of those abilities in the dog, but it's really up to you to expose the dogs to this stuff and um, the love of water. This breed of all the French breeds is the one that's supposed to love the water more than other ones. For people who'd like to know that little tidbit. But I still know that it took training to get them starting in. I like to do marsh grass and just kind of frolic in the muck, get them used to really desensitize them to the environment, and then move and I developed this method. I use my surf rod and I put a dummy on the surf rod, and a lot of people just throw their dummies. But when I put the dummy on a surf rod and the dog goes for it and you just pull it, and the desire that pulls out of the dog, that they go maniacal when you're using your surf rod to tease them with the dummy. And then so you can get strong launches. Again, like as the feet come off the ground, they lose that, when they're trying to swim, but because they get so possessed with that dummy, it helps them to transition to water very easily. Some of my training, we didn't talk about this at all, but my woe training, these puppies that are in our house, what makes us different as a breeder is that these puppies are raised in our bedroom, and they're on my wife's side of the bed. They're in a beautiful whelping box, and we use heat from below and heat from above. I've done studies of my own that the two sources of heat allow the puppies to grow at a faster rate. Now they're 4 weeks old, so they have a heating pad. They choose if they want to be on the heat or not. Um, you can tell if the puppies are cold, they huddle together, they search for the heat. If they're open, so as you go forward, Bill, with breeding your puppies, you'll know that you'll have your breeder too as a resource. Um, the first litter and the first weeks are your stressful. The day of whelp is really
Sure.
stressful, and so we raise them in the bedroom, and we weigh them. We start our warming protocols 2, 4, and 6 weeks. We have a great scale, so I can weigh them to the ounce. I start to separate when it's a larger litter. I'll start to mix up puppies in crates, so I get them used to being in the crate. Girls, boys, bold, timid, and I'm start a little bit later. I haven't done that yet with this litter, but then we put the pee-pee pads. I'm introducing food this week, so we'll start to put the pads in the whelping box, and we encourage the nesting and feeding on one side of the box, and then the toileting on the other side. And then I take these pee-pee pads and put them on my deck, and it's a considerable walk, but I take the bowl of food and I ring a butcher bell. It's my grandfather's butcher bell when I feed them. It's a Pavlovian behavioral training. and my wife can't blow a whistle. So I developed this bell. And so every time we feed the litter, we ring the bell. And then I take the bell to the deck on the back of the house. So I'm starting to teach that we start to toilet outside of the house, but the pee-pee pads are common. And they find that. And I have videos of them at, 5, 6 weeks already learning the pad training. Then I teach them the steps. And then if we're out on the deck, then I'll start to introduce game. I'll have quail, I'll have pheasant, and that the litter can start to put these things into their mouth and just desensitize to game in your mouth. And the puppies take to it and they'll fight over it. And I'm not worried about ruining point or anything because I'm concerned about just that this is your normal activity. So then, in our area, when the pup is 7 weeks old, we have what we call the puppy pickup party, and we encourage everybody to come on that day around day 49, and we try to get it on a suitable day, and we'll people can stay at our house here. We have if they want to have hotels, but again, this is that encouragement that I'm creating this bond with the new owner that I like you enough to stay in my house. Okay, that's the how deep I feel about this stuff. And so they get to meet each other at the puppy party. I take them for a walk with the mature dogs, and I show them, and they've already been screened that these are athletes and they need exercise every day. And I show them what their little ball of fur is going to be like. And when I cut them loose on the breakout, and I said, "Are you ready for this?" That 100, 200 yard exuberant burst. And so, and then with the bell training, Bill is so wonderful because I can take 8 puppies out into the yard, and we're in a wooded area too, and they can explore. And so again, I'm showing them. I'm trying to desensitize is the best word I can use. That this is normal. Up and down steps. This is normal. This going over trees and logs, leaves crunching under your feet, and you should see them sometimes. It's really kind of joyful. And then we ring the bell, and all the puppies will come back to us, and we have the saucer of food, and then we'll start to collect them and put them back into crates to bring them back into the truck and then back to home if they're at home. But this bell method, I just developed it, and it instead of running puppies down, it is just really, really good technique. If I could share that with anybody, any puppy people out there. And again, you have to have the patience to to spend the time with the puppies, and we're totally into it. My wife and I are just totally into it. And Sandy's not here, but I wish she were to just her nurture. And she's a director of programs, and she's added a wonderful dimension to the business of the spreadsheets and keeping track of the people. And I'd have to put a plug in there for her. She really would have liked to have been here. Um, so sometimes I can take a cap pistol 100 yards away, and it's really tricky with gun introduction. But I don't always do that. In the old days, I did. But it was just to say that the dogs weren't gun shy when they left here, because that's if anybody ever comes up with that one, I've heard it once or twice in 30 years or 40 years. So
You're already doing a lot. If you think about it, you're introducing the crate, you're doing introductory housebreaking, and you're doing introductory recall. And that's such a leg up at, if it's a puppy buyer, homing that puppy at 8 weeks old, and getting a puppy that's already had introductory work done on those three. I'm happy if I can get introductory work on crate training.
yep,
Housebreaking, I can do that. It is what it is. It's days or weeks, and puppy to puppy. Recall, every handler is going to the first thing they're going to work on is recall training. But the crate training is, that's the nightmare of the first of the first few
it
days
is.
of owning a puppy, right? That's the
Yes.
reason why I sleep in the guest bedroom for the
Yes.
first however long it takes with a new
Yeah.
puppy. And we all know sometimes, with a puppy, it could be a night or two, or it could be a week or two.
Yes.
Who knows?
It's huge. It's huge. Trying to put that extra time in for the people and again, breed to breed, sibling to sibling, that somebody will say, oh, it took a little longer, or they'll say, Gene, it was like they were made for this. And that's as a breeder, that kind of data, it's like, now how did that happen? How did that happen that one has separation anxiety or something that you hear about and you're like, now where did that come from?
I'd
So
like to think that as a breeder, I might hold on to my puppies for an extra week, but I also know that come around 6 weeks of age, I'm going to be just counting down the days to week
mhm.
8, where I can safely home the puppies. So I'm definitely not going to commit to holding on to those puppies till 9 weeks old.
Yes, they really require at that 8 weeks, particularly 8 and 9, they are really ready for that relationship. My other place, I had a kennel building. This was a topic of whether to raise your dogs, your hunting dogs in the home or in the kennel. The basics of it is if they're home, they know everything about you. They know your body language. They know every voice tone that you've talked to them about or to your family. They know it. The kennel dogs, they know that when you're there, we're going to work. And that, in a nutshell, after 30, 40 years of doing this, that is my take on the kennel dog versus the home dog. The home dog knows your nuances. The kennel dog knows you as this is what we're going to do now. We're going to go hunting or training. That it's a little bit, and they still know all the little nuances, but your home dog you just can develop a broader vocabulary with like instead of in the kennel, now we're telling the mother of this litter, go in the puppies or go in the box. And that means go in the whelping box. My whelping box has a low front end for the first weeks, and then I put the front end up so she has to leap into it right now. And it's a kind of a blind leap. She looks over to see where the pups are, but they still have to do this blind leap. So they're always a little bit apprehensive when the door goes up. So you can put the door up and encourage it, but then the pups start to want to overflow once the door's down. And then our relationship with the puppies is about to change because we'll start to feed them. And then when you are anywhere near the box, they just the vocalization and stuff starts with the puppy. This is there the breeder has to spend time with the puppies, and every week is a developmental week, and it's well studied, well written, and it's just don't let the breeder skip over these things.
No,
Because
it's a responsibility.
it is, it is, it is, and that's what, like I say, we're all in by having them in our bedroom. They're and your dog, if you never heard it, say whatever you want about a man's wife, about his children, but be damn careful what you say about his dog. That's an old saying, and it's because the dog is our extension, and it's our extension of us, the man, woman who owns that dog, and because we invest so much into them, that's what they used to say. I still say it. So that's what to get an Ironmaster puppy. We've put a lot of work into it.
What are some of the BAs that you've had that stand out to you, whether by way of accomplishment or just was your best friend or whatever?
So Maya will always be in our home. As you get to this breeding point, what do you do with your older dogs? But Maya will always, this group of dogs we have will always be with us because of their role in my second phase of dog breeding. And I'm indebted to Maya for getting me back into it. And so to have Maya and be prize one max score back in the game was just a blessing. And Sandy was there to see it. And it was, new test grounds out on the coast of North Carolina. And one of this is the best story for me was one of the judges was from Ohio. His name was Steve Kane, and one of them was from Pennsylvania, and I can't remember his name. But when they went there, Steve and I started together in NAVTA. He was a wire hair guy. He had a farming accident last year and died, but Steve was the senior judge at this, and it was like, Gene Maylock, how good it is to see you. And I told him my story, and he's like, wow. And then when they read the scores and and he just read it, he says, I can't pronounce this dog's name, but let me just read the scores. Four, four, four. Okay, everybody, it's all fours. And it was to welcome back after the hiatus that I had was that's a that's a special dog story to share with everybody, to have her and like the breeder knew that that was her pick, and that's kind of reassuring that she did what was intended of her. She's been a wonderful companion. She's traveled all over the country, as the other ones have too. And then my boy, the whole project to import another dog was and then to have our own. So these three are all they all mean something to me. And then I hope the next one, that's the start of F3. So so
Sure.
my goal is to get the dogs tested with other owners, and then to have Ironmaster breeding within the dogs. And it's not that I don't want to breed to anybody else, but that would just be a personal accomplishment, and that would just start to this is what my dogs are looking like. If I don't I don't want to be braggadocious or something, but um, that means something to me that I can self-sustain. Um, and if there are other people out there, I've talked to a couple people in the BA world, and this the distance, California, and there's another fella I think just coming into it in Minnesota, and I have to make contact with him. I'll make the effort to contact him. So
As you build that Iron Master network, then
yes,
that'll eventually get easier for you.
yes, that's it. Yep. So there's never anything convenient about a rare breed. That I think that's the lesson learned. And as you go in your SM world, um, um, it's responsibility. It's a big responsibility.
Gene, I'm going to give you an opportunity to close it out and add anything else that you'd like to, you think that's important for people to hear. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, if you'd like to learn more about the Braque d'Auvergne, the Alverne Pointer, you can always call me. I have a telephone number. Can I list the telephone number, Bill? Should I say
Absolutely.
it?
It's your phone
Yeah.
number. You can do whatever you want with it.
All right. That number is area code 412-709-9864. I have email, which is ironmasterkennel@gmail.com. We have a web page, Ironmaster Kennel Braque d'Auvergne at
If you Google Braque d'Auvergne,
yes.
you'll probably find Iron Master as, I think, the only kennel that pops up.
Okay. But we do believe that calling is the best, because we really do want to get to know you as a future puppy owner. And then we want to be your support as you're training your dog. And I just want to hear you say, Gene, this is the best dog I've ever had. That's really how I'd like to leave it, Bill. And my legacy is that Gene Maylock gave me my best dog I ever had. That's really what I've been in it for a long time.
Well, Gene, it's been a real treat to get to know you a little bit over the phone and over this video chat here. I'm going to hold you to a hunting trip sometime in the near future. You are the one that threw out Pennsylvania, and I have yet to truly crack the code on Pennsylvania grouse. So, I think people have heard that. I think I talked about it at some point in a previous podcast. If you haven't, you have to listen to all of them in order to find that story. I'm not going to tell you which one it was in.
Okay.
but
Hey, I have
but
one for you before we go. The
okay, go ahead.
Pennsylvania grouse. I've hunted grouse from Maine through the states to Saskatchewan. All the other grouse, you can take photos of your dog pointing them. You go to Pennsylvania and you slam your car door too loud, you're in for an 8 mile walk.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with the Pennsylvania grouse and hunting them everywhere in the country. But the Pennsylvania ruffed grouse is just a different bird.
It's a spooky bird, and it's also not, unfortunately, it's not found in a lot of the areas where it was historically found. So, in my personal experience, you can do the best internet web search. The places that come up first are not going to be the places to start.
Nope.
In my experience, you'll find ticks is what you're going to find. A lot of
Oh
them.
yeah. Central PA did what was supposed to be a 10-year study of cuttings for grouse. It turned into a 20-year, and I do believe it's still non-huntable. They took the best cover in Central PA because it was and the density of people that lived there, and all of us would hunt the skirts of the game lands, and so we would shoot those grouse. But the poplar and things that they planted, that's where I would train a lot, Bill. That's actually around the area where those woodcock came from. I said, why couldn't you do this in or somewhere in the northern tier of Pennsylvania, give up those game lands that nobody goes to anyway, but they didn't. But to hunt in Pennsylvania, Bill, I'd say we could spend our money going to Minnesota or Upper Peninsula. I used to hunt up in not the upper, but just north Michigan because there were more birds. And I hunted with Buck Kritko. He had a camp up by what's that place? The dam. He said, Gene, it's still nothing like when I bought this cabin here. We'd find one or two birds a day. He'd have field trial setters. And again, I showed him that the close working versatile can outperform those grouse dogs, what they call grouse dogs, every day. I don't put that in there.
Oh no, you own it now. I'm leaving
Yeah,
it in there
okay.
just so everybody knows. There are a lot of setter folks who listen to this
Okay.
podcast. So
Yeah.
I think most of my listeners are probably setter folks.
Yeah.
Most of them are grouse hunters. They've got phenomenal cover dogs. So you may get some phone calls over that one.
Okay. My number's out there. Yeah. Yeah. Be damn careful what you say about a man's dog.
Sure thing. Oh man. All right,
Um,
Gene, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate having you. And it was great meeting you.
you too, Bill. Really was.
Hope you enjoyed episode number 16 of the Wopost podcast. And if you did, please leave a 5-star review on your podcast directory of choice. Remember to share the podcast with all your friends, like and follow on social media, and become a patron at patreon.com/thewopost. And if you own a bird dog related business and you'd like to advertise on the Wopost podcast, you can contact me at bill@thewopost.com. Stay steady and God bless.